You're my sweetest addiction, you're my strongest inspiration, and I love you. It's true, there's no mountain I could not climb as long as you
share. Live stream to Facebook. Okay, sorry for that lull. I needed to live stream to Facebook as well. So a warm welcome to you this, well, for me, it's evening. I know for Maury, it's afternoon, and also for Elizabeth and Yo, it's afternoon. And for Jan, in Scotland at the moment, so we're on the same time zone. A warm welcome to you all. I'm Carol Edmondson. I am a volunteer host for Coshulia UK. And Coshulia UK stands for Empowered Woman. The CEO and founder of Coshulia UK is Ritu Sharma, who is a women empowerment ambassador, a producer, an entrepreneur, and many more accolades to her name. Unfortunately, she's unable to join us this evening due to ill health. So I shall be running with it, and thank you, one of our speakers, Yo, for kindly manning the waiting room for me, which helps immensely. So a little bit about, as I say, I'm a volunteer host and have been volunteering with Coshulia UK for, it will be 4 years in June, and I very much enjoy what I do. So a bit about Coshulia UK. For those joining for the first time, it's a registered not-for-profit community organisation to empower and uplift women, but also inviting men to contribute. As I mentioned, the founder is Ritu Sharma. And a bit more about Ritu. She has actually dedicated her life, and I mean dedicated, to bringing women of this world to find their own power and true worth. The main aim of the organisation is to empower, connect communities, raise awareness of issues that affect women, to support women who are on a journey to create a life of fulfillment through personal, professional, and financial growth. Projects include education, personal and professional development, health and well-being, domestic violence awareness and support for victims, and a Let's Talk Happiness in-person event, which I also host twice a month. And it's a wonderful group where it's an opportunity to bring people out, to find time, to connect, and we have amazing times. So just before I start, can I ask everyone to mute their mics? There will be an opportunity to ask questions once all 4 speakers have spoken. And in a moment, I'll ask the speakers to just raise their hands as I call their names. So our speakers this evening are Elizabeth Falloon, joining us from the US. Yay! We also have Yo Ilan, again joining us from the US. We have Maury Zelkovich, joining us from Canada. And we have Jan Roberts, normally based in South Africa, but in Scotland, his hometown, joining us from Scotland this evening. Hi, Karen, lovely to see you. Karen was a speaker on one of our events as well. Awesome. So, kicking us off this evening then, or afternoon, where you are, I'd like to introduce you to our first speaker, who is Elizabeth Falloon. Elizabeth faced her darkest moment, seeking change within herself. Inspired by Wayne Dyer's wisdom, she transformed her life and her son's. Through resilience, she emerged from the shadows, embracing a career as a private flight attendant. Yet she felt a deeper calling. Now Elizabeth shares her journey, spreading hope and resilience, one talk at a time. She believes in the power of positivity, refusing to let life's challenges define her. In her spare time, she cherishes moments with her son, plays the piano, and enjoys the company of their pet cats, Lala and Lucky. So I am turning the floor over to you, Elizabeth.
Thank you so much, Carol. Thank you. That was really wonderful. Just wanted to start off by saying that what your thoughts are, you become. That's a very, very wise quote, by the way, by the late Dyer. And what I've actually learned is that there are so many people who actually allow their negative circumstances to define who they are in life. And some of those negative circumstances could be like financial struggles, broken relationships, just broken relationships, and also career setbacks and even failures. And when we allow those feelings on the inside to evolve from those negative circumstances, those are feelings that are feelings of fear, isolation, embarrassment, and even shame. And that will only lead us growing up in life from a place of lack, which will eventually lead to a place which is a place of darkness. And you see, I've been in that place. I've been in that place of darkness myself, because there was a time in my life where I had reached a very low place. And by that, I mean, I had never felt so broken in my life, because when I received the call that I had to figure things out with my 3-month-old son, I felt as if a boulder had smashed me up against the wall, and I fell flat on my face and I just crumbled. Now, most of the times we talk about falling flat on our backs, but as Les Brown says, when we fall flat on our backs and if we're able to open our eyes, we should be able to get up. But I had fallen flat on my face. And it just felt as if I did not want to move because it was painful. But there was a voice within me that said, you must get up. And I had to hear that voice again. When I heard it the second time, I did get up. But I didn't get up and start walking right away. I actually had to crawl. And when I started crawling, that was when I started to learn some of the most valuable lessons, not only in life, but about who I was as a person. And I needed those lessons. And it was at that time that total stranger showed up. He stretched out his hands and he said to me, you need this. And it was actually a stack of audio CDs by Dyer. I had no clue who Dyer was, but I was so ready and so hungry and determined to change my life, because that place was just too dark of a place to stay into. So the moment I started leaning into those lessons, like, things just started in so many different ways. Life started to change. Life started to unfold. The right people started showing up. However, as I continued to crawl, I slowly just felt myself getting up because as I was getting up, I was actually building those muscles of resilience. And not only was I learning lessons of self-love and self-resilience, but resilience was one of the biggest ones. And as I started to walk, I then turned my walk into a run, and then my run into a soar. And then that's when doors just magically opened up to this amazing career as a corporate flight attendant. Now, mind you, unfortunately, so many of us choose to stay in that space, that place of just living based on the unfortunate circumstances in our lives. And amazing things can happen to you, but we just have to believe that they can. And so the difficult things are happening to us for a reason. We might not know why they're happening, but they're here to teach us so many more things about who we are in life. And it's not just about being positive, but it's actually having the right mindset, having that mindset to want to change our lives and want so much more out of life itself. Because as Wayne Dyer says, what your thoughts are, you become. It's about the vibration that we're putting out there. It's about the energy that we're putting out there. Life will always pop up, but we don't want to stay in that place. We want to continue moving, and that's where resilience comes in. Yes, it's okay to have that setback in life, absolutely. But once we have that setback, we want to continue going forward, because the more we practice resilience, the easier things become. So, what your thoughts are, you become. Thank you.
Awesome. Oh my goodness. Let me just Elizabeth, thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you.
Now, if you've got any questions for Elizabeth, please save them till after all 4 speakers have spoken. And thank you for sharing with us, Elizabeth. And now, bear with me. I would like to introduce you to our second speaker, who is Yo Ilan. In answer to your question, Maury, yes. So bear with me one moment. Right. So who is Yo Ilan? Well, let me tell you. Throughout her life, actually, I'll read this in first person, your biography. So throughout my life, I've been a people-pleasing achiever, prioritizing others' needs over my own, seeking validation in their gratitude. I buried my own desires beneath layers of busyness, filling each day with action and accomplishments. However, this led to a battle with alcoholism, prompting my journey of self-recovery and self-discovery. Now, 5 years later, I embrace authenticity, fostering a healthier relationship with myself and the world. Prioritizing self-care, I empower others to design authentic lives free from addiction's grip. Join me as I share my story, inspiring others to live unapologetically authentic lives. Yo, I've been waiting for this for a long time. I have came across Yo many years ago on another platform. So I am so excited, and I am going to hand the floor over to you and remove the spotlight from me.
Thank you, lovely. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending on the time zone you're catching this presentation. Welcome to your motivational comedy experience. I'm your motivational comedian, Yo, the Joy Igniter. Yeah. I bet you're wondering, what is a motivational comedian and what is motivational comedy? I'm going to tell and share with you later. Right now, let's go ahead and get this name thing out of the way. People always ask me, is your name actually Yo? And the answer is no. My actual name is Yolanda, and it's spelled Yolunda, and it's pronounced Yolanda. And my entire life, I have always had to spell my name out and pronounce it. So when my ex-husband, who I met back in high school, gave me the nickname Yo, I decided to stick with it. It was short, it was sweet, like me, most of the time, until you meet me, and then I'm just sweeter. But I thought it would be easy to remember, but unfortunately not. I'm still having to answer people, how do you say your name? I mean, how do you say it, y'all? It's a Y and an O, the Y and an O, Yo. And on Zoom meetings, like if you see my name right now, it says Yo, the Joy Igniter, do yourself every day. Some people will be like, oh, hi, Joy. It's so nice to meet you. And I'm usually like, really? I mean, I guess because Joy is a recognizable name, and, you know, I do live in joy all the time. So it makes sense. But the name is just Yo, short for Yolanda. Okay, there we go. Name thing out the way. Now, I've had lots of names throughout my life, lots of names. In my 52 years of existence, yes, I said 52, you know, black don't crack. You're welcome. So in 52 years, I've been called Yo. My family calls me Londa. If I was a full-time teacher and I taught you, they call me Mrs. Elam. If I was a sub and taught them, they call me Miss Yo. I've been called baby, sweetheart, you know, all the good, beautiful things. I've been called crazy. And I've had lots of titles and roles in my life too. Yeah, you know, I've been a teacher. I was Teacher of the Year. I taught public school for 25 years. You're welcome for that service. I'm an aunt. I'm a sister. I'm an entrepreneur. You know, lots of just different things. I'm a motivational comedian, which is my current role. And again, I bet you're asking, what is that and how did you get it? Well, you know, it was a happy accident. I live in Texas. I'm a digital nomad now, but I was in Texas at the time. And my business coach and friend lives in Los Angeles, California. And she's one of those friends who's always doing things out the box, you know, always doing crazy shit. And so she was giving herself a birthday party at a comedy venue. She rented out a comedy venue and she was going to host her own comedy show. And it was a ticket to the event. And so she had virtual tickets and in-person tickets. And so I was sitting there, I'm a ride or die kind of friend, and I'm a loyal friend, you know, to the fault sometimes. And I looked at my Southwest Airlines and I realized that I had some credits. And so I decided to use the credits to surprise her for her birthday. But she doesn't like surprises. And so a week before her birthday, I was like, hey, I know you don't like surprises, but I'm coming to surprise you for your birthday. She said, okay, that's cool, Yolanda. We can get you on stage. Oh, yo, that's cool, yo. We can get you on stage and you can get some stage time holding the mic and you can introduce me. I'm like, okay, cool, I can do this. That's fine. You know, so I brought me a dress and I had to wear her shoes because I picked light. I had to wear her shoes and we took a photo shoot, hee hee ha ha. And then that night, 5 minutes before the show starts, 5 minutes, y'all, before the show starts, she comes up to me and she says, so yo, I'm like, what's up? She said, why don't you introduce me with a set? That's what she mean. And she said, just go down there and talk for 10 minutes. Talk about what? And she said, oh, tell your story. Bitch, my story is sad. And she talking about make it funny. How the hell you make alcoholism funny? So I'm gonna go on my phone, open mic jokes, how to make alcoholism funny, you know, and then took a deep breath and I said, you know what? This is not about me. This is for my friend. And I'm a ride or die kind of friend. I'm gonna go down there and do the best I can. At first, I thought I would be like, hey, you know what? We love her. Monica Henderson, yay. But no, she wants me to talk for 10 minutes. So I went downstairs, I sat on the stool, and they had the mic, stand the mic in front of me. And I had a friend in the audience, Peggy, who's a headshot photographer. She was going to take pictures so I could get that stage time, you know, because I originally wanted to be a motivational speaker and talk about my story of recovery. So I was getting some footage on me on stage. So I had the microphone in front of me and they moved it. So I just had the mic. I'm sitting on the stool and I just ran my mouth for 10 minutes. I talked about my kids, my grandkids, some part of my teaching career. And at the end of the actual show, everybody just like, oh my God, yo, you are so funny. How are you not a comedian? So I took motivational speaker aspiration, natural communicability, boom, bam, here you go. Motivational comedian presenting motivational comedy. Ah. So like I said, it's one of my current roles. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a lover sometimes, you know, more than a fighter, except I'm going to fight for myself. That's coming up. And then, I was an alcoholic. That one is one of the roles that I always get those Google eyes on, like, what? I even had one person come up to me, y'all, in my face and say, but yo, you don't look like an alcoholic. And I'm thinking like, well, what do we look like? I didn't know there was a standard. I mean, I'm vertically challenged at 5'2.5". Would I not be one at 5'5"? Do I need to put on some pounds? I mean, what makes me an alcoholic by physical standard? I was already struggling with drinking issues. She had me body shaming myself. Do I need to gain some pounds? What's going on? But anyway, so I had two relationships in my life at the same time. I was committed to the alcohol. Oh, I'm sorry. That's one of my things. I was committed to the alcohol as much as I was committed to my husband at the time. And so for 30 years, I'm in this relationship with alcohol. And when we broke up, it was not pretty at all. I remember exactly, it was March 11th, 2019, it's almost 5 years. It's almost 5 years. Almost 5 years ago. I had come home from work At the time, I was teaching junior high school. And I came home from work and I did my normal routine, which is declothe myself, put on my comfy PJs, you know, some sort of a copy, sing slogan on there, or some sort of a Marvel character. And so I was getting myself prepared for the night. I go into my kitchen, and as always, I grab my bottle of wine. As you can see my fork. I grab my bottle of wine and my glass, right? And so with my bottle, which is Behringer White Merlot, 14.5%, 14.5%, I had picked up the bottle, so my bottle, and my glass. So Behringer, 14.5%. And I poured, you know, the wine into my cup. And now, not the kind of cups you see on TV, my kind of cup. And I filled it up to the rim. Take that quick sip, you know, to make sure it doesn't overspill. And then I began to pop my popcorn because, you know, it's TGIT. On Thursday nights, every commercial is I was highlighting popcorn and wine. So I had my Costco popcorn in the microwave. And it's got to be Costco because that is the best butterflavored popcorn in existence, Costco. Costco popcorn, glass of wine. I put the wine on the coffee table along with the popcorn and made myself comfortable on the couch. And as I'm waiting for the show to start, because it was going to either be Scandal or How to Get Away with Murder. Either way, something was about to be covered up or uncovered. So I was excited. And as always, I started this internal dialogue with myself. So I'm talking to myself inside, but this time, for some reason, I verbalized the conversation aloud, like talking to you all, like I'm talking to glass of wine, like that's wine and me having a conversation. And I told the wine, I don't want you. I don't want you. And the wine was like, here she goes. And I said, I'm tired of what you're doing to me. I'm tired of blacking out. I'm tired of lying to my husband. I'm tired of my 25-year-old child coming to rescue me and drink alongside of me just so I don't drink the bottle by myself. I was tired. And the wine was like, but you always tired. And you always saying you're tired. And you can't blame me for everything because you had your shit before you started found me in the first place. So just get over yourself. Go ahead and drink me up. Get over these feelings. You know I make you forget. And so I battled a little bit longer. You know, kind of had that devil and angel going on my shoulders. You know, I had one that was like, but I'm just so tired. I can't do it anymore. I'm just, you know, what's wrong with me? What can't I stop? And I was sitting in guilt and shame and I felt weak. But I had the other side of me who was like, girl, you better get your shit together. You stronger than that. You've been through this already. Look at you. You had 3 children and they doing well. You've been married 32 years or 28 at the time, I think. And you a teacher of the year. And you got careers. You living, everybody, you living your best life. Like, you better pull it together. And so that, you know, they started battling, going back and forth. And unfortunately, yet fortunately, the weaker side of me won. And so I proceeded to finish the glass of wine I had along with the bottle it came from. And I made my way to my restroom and I grabbed some anxiety medication pills I had in the medicine cabinet at the time. Because when I couldn't stop drinking, I thought something was wrong. I thought that I was bipolar or had anxiety issues. So I took those pills and I drank them, whatever was left in the bottle, about 20, 25 of them. I drank them along with the rest of the layaway bottle. Because, you know, I always had a layaway bottle in the corner. And it just, I tapped into the inner child of me that wanted to be rescued and wanted to be seen. And I ran to my husband. I told him what I had done. And he, in his efforts to rescue me, decided to call the ambulance services. You know, and I'm pissed off at him trying to save my life. I was like, what the fuck are you doing? I don't need no rescuing. And so I ran into the middle of the street, hoping that a car would come by and, you know, knock me out and I'd die faster. But the car that came swerved around me. I'm yelling at the car, you jerk. I'm pretty sure I said something else, a little more colorful, because I usually, you know, talk that way when I was inebriated. And so I said, you jerk. Nothing happened. So fast forward, the ambulance came to pick me up, and the paramedic was explaining to me that what I thought was going to happen to my body wasn't going to happen that way. And it would have been very painful for me and some other stuff. But I was going in and out. I was like, I had medication, I had alcohol. I was exhausted from teaching middle school the whole day. And I wound up in the hospital for 2 days, sleep, just sleep. I kept going in and out of sleep, waking up, going to sleep, waking up, going to sleep. And when I did wake up for a substantial amount of time and I tried to watch television, I couldn't watch television because they didn't bring my glasses with me when they took me out of my house. So I'm blind trying to watch TV and had a person on the edge of my bed, you know, for a suicide watch. So it was a dark time. It was a dark time. And I wound up in a rehab center by choice. I volunteered. And I went to this center and I was like, ooh, what is this? Am I a celebrity? Because it was the kind of rehabs I saw on television. And I thought only rich people went to rehab like this because they're the only ones that got drinking problems, not me. And so I went to the rehab, and it was beautiful. We had like a chef on site. We had yoga instructors and personal trainers come up, throughout the week. And it was very bougie. And I enjoyed my experience there. And it was probably one of the best times in my life at the time. And when I left rehab, I realized that my lens I was looking from didn't belong to me. It wasn't my lens. I was making choices for myself that didn't come from me. Yeah, I got married when I was 18 years old, and I did so because my grandmother told me to. I remember being in high school, about to graduate, and I sat down at my kitchen table in my grandmother's home. She was ironing clothes, and I said, "Granny, I'm pregnant." Her exact words was, "So when are y'all getting married?" I'm like, "I don't know. Let me ask Chris," my ex-husband. And so I got married at 18. And that ride or die chick, overachiever. I stayed married for 32 years. And it was a good marriage. And we are we're in the process of divorce by our both standards now. So if you out there going, "Oh, don't give me sadness," we are the healthiest we have ever been. I tell y'all, this is what happened. I retired from the company of marriage and the role of wife. I put in my 32 years. We merged and made 3 subsidiary companies. We got a 32-year-old who made their own companies, and I had a 30-year-old and a 28-year-old. So we merged. They created little mini companies, whatever that name is. And I got 1 grandson, 4 granddaughters, and another grandson. So I have 6 grandchildren. I did my dues in the marriage world. I did my dues. So I let my marriage go. Then I realized what kind of career was I having. I was a teacher for 25 years. I wasn't fulfilled for a long time, but I was pushing through because I thought this is what you had to do according to the world and religion and my upbringing. And so I began to question everything. And that's what I challenge you to do, is to question everything. Because once I started questioning everything in my life, I began to find joy for me in my life. And I'm living a joy-filled life, and I live it joyfully. I like what she said earlier. I'm sorry, baby, I can't think of your name right now, but I feel like our messages are lined up, so somebody out there needs to hear this. But like she said earlier, I'm living the most authentic life I've ever been able to live. And I started by doing something very simple. This is what I challenge you to do. Is I started with a list with 3 words: be, do, and have. The teacher is kicking in, so if you have time, grab a pen and a piece of paper. Be, do, and have. So the be column was all the characteristics of who I wanted to be. And I started off with asking myself who I was that I did not like. I was a dishonest person, and I didn't like being dishonest. I was dishonest with myself. I was dishonest with the people around me. Not like a liar, but I wasn't living my truth. I wasn't living my truth. And so I said, I wanted to be honest. I wanted to be free. I wanted to be fulfilled. I wanted to be charismatic. I mean, more charismatic, right? I wanted to be fun. I wanted to write these things down. And then I did the same thing with what do I want to do in my life? And I've always wanted to visit all 50 states. There's a bucket list of mine since I was a kid. So I said, I want to travel. I want to visit all 50 states. I want to do comedy. That was on my list, to be honest. Now I'm thinking about it. And then I had a 3rd column that said have. And I wrote down all the things I like to have. And they didn't have to all be tangible. Like I would like to have a Bentley with a driver, in shape driver, but a Bentley with a driver. Or it could be I want to have peace of mind, or I want to have enough money in my account to do what I want to do, when I want to do it, and do it comfortably. Check for that one. And so if you do those 3 columns and you come back and revisit that, and you say, okay, well, out of these 3 things, what can I do right now? What's one thing I really want to be right now? Let's say I want to be healthy. And I want to be healthy. In order to be healthy, that requires movement and nutrition, which I can help you with because I was a fitness trainer for 2.5 years, Just get to your body, can still do some push-ups. And so if you want to be healthy, so you say you want to be healthy, then that might require eating 1 nutritious meal a day. Or if that's too much, 1 nutritious meal that week and walk outside for 10 minutes. That could be a step to being healthy, and then take those steps and put them on your calendar. Just become intentional of the things that you want to do in your life so that you can have this joy-filled life and the power over it with your own choices. It's so fulfilling. It's so fulfilling. And so after you make your list and you start being intentional in your movements, then you start realizing that you are starting to be who you are. And that's who all you ever need to be, is who you are. And so I think I'm running out of time, so I'm gonna wrap this up. I encourage you to do those 3 things, make that list, start to feel it in your life and start living in your joy. And before I leave, just in case you are curious if you might be on the borderline of being an alcoholic. Here's a joke. I always end my sessions with a joke. So imagine that there's 3 people at a bar and they're hanging out. You have a social drinker, a heavy drinker, and an alcoholic. So the social drinker is drinking on a vodka and cranberry juice. And it's flies buzzing around outside. It's a warm spring day. And so a fly lands in her drink and she sees the fly. She moves the drink to the side and just says, "That's disgusting. Move it away from me." Then you have the heavy drinker. The heavy drinker is drinking on a dirty martini. They got that rim glass and the fly lands in it. The heavy drinker picks the fly up, chucks it to the side, and finishes off the drink. Bring me the next martini. Then you have the alcoholic. The alcoholic is sitting there in the front of them. They have a Crown and Coke with a lime wedge. It's all freshly squeezed in, and they pick it up, the fly lands in it. The alcoholic picks up the fly, looks it dead in the eye, and says, "Spit it out, you son of a bitch." Thank you so much for sharing space with me. I look forward to the Q&A. And remember, it's not bye, it's be yourself every day. See you in the Q&A. Carol, you're muted.
I was saying to myself, I'm muted. Thank you so much, Yo. Wonderful. And I'm sure we're going to have a lively Q&A. So, bear with me. All right. So on to our next speaker, who is Jan Roberts. And Jan's journey began at 17, spurred by bullying, driving him towards self-development. Despite a successful 30-plus year career in the oil industry, managing multi-million-dollar projects globally, Jan pursued continuous education in leadership, personal development, coaching, sorry, I lost my place, coaching, this is live, and communication. A pivotal moment in Guatemala solidified his commitment to positive impact. Driven by a passion for change, Jan invests heavily in community upliftment, youth development, and empowering others through speaking and coaching. He emphasizes the importance of values in addressing societal challenges, urging accountability from corporate entities and individuals. Jan's influence spans globally with speaking engagements and training sessions across diverse countries. His dedication lies in empowering individuals to find their voices and create meaningful change, exemplified by his founding of JR's Speakers Club. And with that, the floor is yours, Jan.
Wow, I better set a clock just in case I get talking and I don't know when to stop. But yes, thank you very much for that introduction and for giving me yet another opportunity. It's been a while ago since both myself and Artie graced this platform. And I already like that I hear things about intentional living, because that's really the subject I want to really talk about. I mean, I talk about a lot of things, but this is one I think that encompasses so many things in life. And I called it intentional living is the present you give to yourself. See, you can ask most people, if not all people, if they want more out of life. And the answer is usually yes. There is very few people who are really, truly satisfied. Some of them say they are, but they kid themselves because it's easier than the pain and suffering they're going through. And yes, they would like more, but then they have to do more and be more and study more maybe even. But one thing's for sure, if we all want more in life, it is usually something different for each and every one of us. But the challenge is that even if we actually know what it is, we don't really know how to go about achieving that. And for those that do know, many put it off until tomorrow. And we all know what happens there. Somebody already mentioned my friend and mentor, John Maxwell. He'll come into it as well. Les Brown. And he always talked about, you know, the richest place in the world is not the diamond mines in Africa, the oil fields in the Middle East, or the stock exchanges around the world, but the richest place is really the graveyard, because that's where most dreams go with people. The graveyard is full of inventions that were never invented, books that were never written, songs that were never sung, and the list goes on and on and on. But when we talk about intentional living, it's all about really finding our purpose, our passion. It's about finding our why and living every day to the fullest of our capacity. I mean, first and foremost, I think we owe this to ourselves. See, because if you ever even want to have a chance to walk into our God-given destiny, we will really need to take care of our personal development every single day. And it's not a nice to have someday thing, every single day. I want to repeat that. Because, you know, it is so easy to get caught up in things, and then the next shiny object comes, or the next idea comes, and you know, there is so many broken promises and unfinished things that are strewn across this world from many centuries until tomorrow. But if you are you, my question at the moment is, and I'm going to ask you a few questions, and you can answer that for yourself and maybe talk about it in the Q&A later, but are you ready to start living your best life rather than merely existing? One thing's for sure, the clock is ticking. My clock is ticking, your clock is ticking. And you don't know when the energy or the battery runs out. And I say, I wake up every morning and say, you know, I'm blessed and highly favored, because I am, and it's a good start to the day. And people say, how can you be so happy? When I used to walk into the day whistling, and I said, you know, I had the best start to the day that I could ever have. And the people, the first time they asked, oh, what was it? They says, I woke up. And when you think about it, there are so many people who would change that position with us every single day. So that's always a great start. Now, in my short talk, I really want to talk into a few things, how to live a life worth living through the realization that good intentions are never enough. I'm going to talk into that. And also, as I already mentioned, tomorrow will never come. So don't put important things off in your life and business. You know, make sure that the best time is always to start today. And me and my wife, Dr. Arthi, who's on here as well, we've talked about it a lot. And people talk about leaving a legacy. But I'm also going to talk into this, because if you live an intentional life, why not live a legacy? Not just leave one. I mean, it's lovely when they say things in your eulogy that, oh, whatever you might have done and have done, and it maybe lives on. But why not enjoy the success, the celebrations of the labor, and you know, see this happening in us and around us. Truly, that will be truly a blessing, and that you know, enriches not only our life, but it gives us an opportunity to even more enrich other lives. So when you think about what does it really take to achieve success and significance, now that for me was a great question, because if I listen to John Maxwell, and there is a story behind that, and Carol already alluded to it a little bit, which changed my life. But when I first heard John Maxwell say, once you've tasted significant success will never be enough. I don't know about you, but I had no clue what the difference was. But when you ask John, he says, you know, to what does it really take to achieve success and significance in life? Now, he answered that question, and he says he believes that the key lies in intentional living. There it comes again. And the more I study this, the more I am convinced that it is the key. Now, the intentional living, and then we talk about significance and success, which are part of it. I went, as Carol already said, in 2013, 11 years ago, John Maxwell, my friend and mentor, asked for volunteers from the Maxwell leadership team to come and help start transformation of an entire country. And you know, I really I'm into people. I love adding value to people and making a difference and all those kind of things. So I volunteered, of course. I threw my hat in the ring. I threw my heart in the ring as well. It's something else that we really should do if you're serious about something. It's not just throw your hat in, because that's easy, but it's to throw your heart in. So man, I did. And 150 of us from around the world went to Guatemala, a country with 14 million people, average age 20. And it's there that I really saw, I felt it, I experienced it, I saw it in the people's eyes, what significance is all about. And success is for yourself and significance is for others. That whole Guatemala is a story for another day, but it left such an impression on me. In 19 days, in 3 days, we trained 19,000 people to become facilitators in a process called values-based leadership. And to this day, I can say that's a process that when you actively get involved in it, and both Artie and me are global specialists in this now, it will change your life. No if, buts, and maybe. When you actively get involved, no doubt about it. We've done this for 11 years, but it made an impression on me. So much so that I never hated my job in the oil industry. I was doing a lot of training, and when I started coaching training, I also found out, hey, I've been coaching for more than 20 years. So it was just that little voice that we all have, and that's where for most people it'll go to the grave with them. But that little voice that tells you that there is more to do. And people say, I've got no little voice. Well, that little voice that just told you that's the one. We're not crazy. We all have them. You know, the devil and the angel on the shoulder type of thing, and you slap one of them off and listen to the other. But I mean, it's that little voice that became stronger and stronger, and my comfort zone became my uncomfort zone, and I knew there was more to do, but this was the missing piece of my jigsaw. And on the way home, I quit my job. I fired my boss. But again, that's a story for another day. But so when you really talk about what exactly is intentional living, now. If you'd ask John Maxwell, if you don't know who he is, he's is the number one leadership guru around the world. He's written more than 120 books on the subject, but he might be a bit surprised at what he said in his book, Intentional Living. He says, intentional living is the key to everything you want to accomplish in life. Not only in life, but in business and in your social environment, because it's more important than where you were born, how much talent you have, or what kinds of connections you have. See, intentional living empowers people to make the uphill climb to success and significance. So, I mean, I thought, well, I actually, of course, I wrote that down because that was quite powerful in one small paragraph. But people, if I ask you, and you probably agree with me, do you ever have good intentions? We all have them. We all have them. But while we all have good intentions, there is a huge significant distinction between good intentions and intentional living. So you know where I'm going with that now. Because simply cultivating good intentions without any purposeful action can lead to total frustration and that feeling of unfulfillment. Because the difference is that people who have good, the roads are paved with good intentions. You've heard that before. But people who have good intentions might do something good occasionally. But people who live an intentional life will do something good continually. And that's what I say. When you live an intentional life, when you wake up every morning with not only with good intentions, but with a purpose, with being intentional, or not maybe a whole day, but some of the things you're going to do every day, that's when you can actually start to feel like you're actually living a significant life, rather than just hoping to leave one by the time you end your journey on Earth. But then the question might be, well, how can you change your world? How can you positively impact your world? Never mind somebody else's, because I think of the quote right now, be the change you want to see in the world. Well, that's not about trying to change other people. Somebody once said, you see when in this influencing business and all that kind of stuff, it says, how do you change people? And I started laughing. I says, listen, I'll be quite honest. I says, I've got enough problems changing the person looking back in the mirror every day. Said you cannot change anybody else. And as a motivational speaker, which is I am too, and Les Brown is my personal friend and mentor, but you can't. It's really wrong, because we can't really motivate other people. We can inspire. It should really be inspirational speaker, because we can inspire other people to motivate themselves, because motivation comes from inside. And if you can inspire other people with something you say, do, or proclaim, then if that motivates them to start doing something different in their life, something more positive, something that where they start taking action, then that is them changing themselves. That we've been a tiny part in this, and the coaches, as a coach, we have this kind of thing as well, that we've been a tiny cog in that big wheel of their life is wonderful. And that's significance, doing things for other people. You know, I hope that makes a little bit of sense to you already. But really, first of all, you need to take control of your life. You know, you must become intentional and work on your personal development. And here it comes again, every single day. And that is really the short answer, because if we really want our tomorrows to be better, be the change you want to see in the world, the only way we have control over that is if we do something to change ourselves every single day. Not when we feel like it, not when it's sometimes in the weekend because we've got time. Every single day. I talk about leadership, and people have fancy names for all of that, but leadership is really about building relationships, and leadership is all about self-leadership, and self-leadership is all about personal growth. So if you don't grow every day, if you don't intentionally grow every day, if you're looking into leadership, you will never become a great leader. I can say that without hesitation, because it's a daily thing. So if you want to change your life and make a difference in the life of others, you need to become more intentional every single day. I think I'm pretty clear about that just now. But it's always easy to become a victim of your circumstances. And to be honest, I was well on my way to join that ever-growing team. You know, and I call it blame storm. We can blame everybody else, the government, the neighbor, our bosses, our teachers in our school when we were younger. We remember that much. You know, the dog, our family. But I mean, that is all blame storming. The only person we have total control over, or should have at least a fair bit of control over, is the one looking in the mirror. But we give that control away. So, what happened to me was I started to read my first personal development book many years ago, and have read many since. It started at the age of 17. Somebody handed me, there's another story attached to that. This, as Carol said, I was bullied when I was a little kid, and at 17, I already had an ulcer. When I was 16, at 17, I said, no more. That's the very short story. I can talk an hour into that whole story as well. But it's really, when I got that first personal development book, and I don't even know who gave it me anymore, but it was How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. But I've been addicted, maybe is that the word, to my personal development and growth ever since. And traveling in the oil industry, my suitcase was usually a bookcase, because I took half my case was full of books, and you know, I sat on courses at nighttime as well when we had the internet. But I also read Intentional Living and decided to take action on its contents, and that's all together is very important, because how often have we heard something good? How often have we read something good and we say, that's it? How often have we been to a seminar? I mean, I've seen them come away from John Maxwell seminars, from Les Brown, from Nick Vujicic, and all kinds of other amazing people. And yes, we're going to change the world. And then Monday happens. And I tell people, it might not be this Monday. It might not be next Monday. In fact, it might not even be Monday. But if you don't look at a way to sustain that excitement, to sustain that change, and it is sustainable development we're looking for, then you will go back to where things were before, and things never change. And when companies send you to training programs like that, then they complain afterwards that the training was no good. No, people there is no follow-up. So you need to follow up on that and take action. You know, and of course, I already didn't buy into a lot of the negativity around the world, and that was by choice. And I've got a little bit more to say about it as well. But as we know, even though, you know, we try to shut that kind of stuff out, The biggest room in the world is always the room for improvement. But there is a couple of great quotes that really came to me in this kind of things, because for things to change, we need to change. You know, be the change you want to see in the world. And the other one was, for thinking, what was it? The thinking, let me think now. The thinking which got you into the situation you're in right now will not get you out of it. Therefore, you must change your thinking. And in that thinking, I want to add a third one, which is a part of a values-based leadership program, which Artie and myself renamed Sustainable Personal Development. And that's the word sustainable is very important. It says, and somebody already alluded to it a little bit, thoughts become actions, actions become habits, and habits become your destiny. That means that everything begins with a thought. Think about that one. I think, well, here's another one for you. George Bernard Shaw said many years ago about thinking. He said, 2% of people think, 3% think they think, and 95% would rather die than think. And therein lies the problem. A big problem indeed. And he said it cheek in mouth, tongue in cheek. But I mean, it's these quotes are worth thinking about. Even the Les Brown one, when you fall back, you know, look up, all those kind of things. They're wonderful quotes, but what do they mean to you? I know what some of them mean to me, but what do they mean to you? You know, I already said that when I step back several decades and talk about my youth, about the self-discovery and the first book, because I you know, even in school I wasn't very good at reading books, but since that first book, I started reading more and more books, which they say leaders are readers. I didn't know that at the time, but for my journey, it includes, and that's still going on to this very day, reading positive books, listening cassettes. It shows you how long ago that was. You know, the things you could wind up with your pencil if they went wrong. After that, there became, of course, CDs and MP3s and MP4s, but watching uplifting and encouraging DVDs and TED Talks, and going to workshops and seminars. And at the age of 17, I also started martial arts, Ki Aikido, which is actually mind over matter stuff. It's all mind power. And again, it's really personal development. But there's a few other things I did, and it was my choice, because I stopped buying newspapers at least 35 years ago and listened to the news, because do we really need all that negative stuff on a daily basis? Do we really need to read all of that? You know, you've heard a quote, garbage in, garbage out. Well, I normally say, instead of Gigo, I call it Kiko, quality in, quality out, which is my positive take on it. But I made these choices intentionally, and then I felt good about the direction of my life, my health and my career, because it affects everything, the way you think. Remember, everything begins with a thought. It controls your body, it controls your mind, it controls you emotionally, even spiritually. You get involved in this. But this was a very different direction, with a very different attitude and a very different perspective than most of the colleagues. They used to laugh about, they had their papers lying on the table, and I had my books lying on the table. But on my journey, I met a guy called, a couple of times, Charlie Tremendous Jones. Everything was tremendous to him. He's passed away now, but he said there is 3 things that will govern the rest of your life: the things you hear, the things you read, and the people you associate with. And he said, and I'll say this to you, some of you might only have to change one of these things, but maybe some of you need to change all 3. And that's your choice. People, but I can't do it. No, it's your choice. All 3 can't be changed. Whether you will, I can't control that. I can't change you. But you need to discover that purpose. If you want to live an intentional life, you also need to start discovering your why, your purpose. You know, you have to do this so you stop meandering through life, and you know you'll even get much more energy. You probably don't even need an alarm clock to get up every morning, because you're energized by what you can do for you and what you can do out there. The significant feeling you can have because you do things for others, because you live an intentional life. You will be able to achieve so much more. You will have greater impact, and you will start to make a real difference. You will start to live that legacy. And when you start every single day with your why, and maybe you need to find that first. I mean, Simon Sinek wrote a whole book about it, and it's phenomenal. Like, but you'll find yourself continually doing things that inspire you and all those around you. Now, imagine how big a difference this can make in your life and the life of others. Now, I'm slowly fast running out of time, actually, but there is if there's a question, so how do my good intentions, how do I turn them into good actions? Now, actually, intentional living is really the bridge from intention to action. And there's good news and there's better news, by the way, but becoming more intentional does not require massive training. You can start today. Don't know New Year's resolution. Say Happy New Day, because that means if you muck it up today, you can start again tomorrow rather than wait till the 1st of January next year. You've heard all them before. Maybe you've been part of it. But the better news is you can do this at any age. So it's not age dependent either. And okay, there's a little bit of other news as well, and it will take more than a decision. As I mentioned already, it will take action. When you wake up every morning, you can do something intentional, whether you, for yourself, your family, a total stranger, you can and you should start to lead by example. That's why leadership comes into it as well, because in John's book, a wonderful personal development book, one of the most amazing ones, 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. The first one, strangely enough, is the law of intentionality. And it states that growth doesn't just happen in a day, it happens daily. Now, there is, how can you do this? Well, you need to start thinking ahead. You need to start making every day count. You need to do this gradually. It's like in a gym. If you've never been in the gym and you're going to stand 2 hours on a treadmill, tomorrow you hurt so much that maybe the day after tomorrow you've got muscle pains that you didn't even know you had muscles, and you never go back. And that's what happens a lot, whether it's tomorrow or the day after. But there is a few main pillars in intentional living as well. And one of them is you've got to be deliberate, because intentional living is not accidental. You've got to be consistent. It's a journey, not a destination. And intentional living requires daily, weekly, and yearly follow-throughs. And you've got to be willful. Intentional living is a choice. Despite obstacles, challenges, and distraction, it demands persistent effort. But take this from me. Real leaders take action. They step up, speak up, and stand out. And Arthur will vouch for it. I speak up about things, and not everybody agrees with me, but it's my truth anyway. But people who want to not just leave a legacy, but also live a legacy, are leaders, are pillars in their families, in their communities, in their business environment, and in their country. So I'm going to finally finish with this. Let me ask you a few questions to finish with. Where are you right now on your journey? And you can measure that. Where do you want to go? Where do you aspire? Who do you aspire to become apart from your best self? That's your direction. And what are you going to do about it? You know, there's a few things you need to do. Become intentional, set priorities, create positive change, serve people, discipline yourself to keep going, and above all else, in the wise words of the late Sir Winston Churchill, never give up. And I'll see you on the other side. Thank you.
Oh, Jan, always have you back. Thank you. And next time, Arthur, you need to join us as well. It's been too long. Fantastic. Oh gosh, I'm sure lots of questions will ensue in our Q&A. So let's remove that and add. Wow. Oh. All right. So it gives me great pleasure. We've had an amazing time so far. It gives me great pleasure to continue our evening with our final speaker for the evening, who is Maury Zelkovich, joining us from Canada. So from a tender age, Maury Zelkovich confronted a host of obstacles, grappling with severe depression and hearing multiple voices in his head. Driven by innate curiosity, he delved into brainwave entertainment, noticing its transformative effects on his perception of time and mental well-being. Dissatisfied with existing solutions, Maury sought guidance from a leading authority, gaining invaluable insights that proved elusive. Equipped with newfound knowledge, he overcame his own mental struggles. now a distinguished brainwave entertainment engineer. Now I want to find out what that means, Maury, and I can't wait to hear. Maury pioneers safer alternatives to habit-forming medications, dedicated to enhancing mental well-being. His journey from adversity to expertise underscores his unwavering commitment to innovation and improving lives. Now that's enough from me. Maury, over to you. Let me just get rid of me.
Thank you very much. So first of all, I want to clarify, it's brainwave entrainment, not entertainment. There is nothing entertaining about what I do. It's entrainment, which I will explain about. However, so, I was going to do this presentation on mindset. And then I said, you know what? Nobody else is using slides. Why should I use slides either? So I'm not going to use slides. Instead, I was inspired to, in the old style, write notes. And I'm just going to go point by point, totally no rhyme or reason behind behind the order. Maurice Zelkovich, I'm a brainwave entrainment engineer. I'm basically a neural scientist. You see, the thing about your brain is it produces neurochemistry in the end. And that chemistry is the code that you require to feel anything. So everything everybody's been talking about, none of that happens without your brain processing information, data, stimulation, and creating chemistry, which is like a recipe, if you will, that allows you to be happy, to be sad, to be upset, to be excited, to be bored, to be this, to be that. Nothing happens. I could slap my face, my head flies back here, flies back this way. If my brain does not produce chemistry that acknowledges that event, I don't know it happened. It's really that simple. I spent the first 40 years of my life wanting to be dead. I had an affirmation, which is kind of sickening, but kind of dark and beautiful at the same time. Life is a disease for which there is no cure but death. I repeated this over and over and over to myself, probably hundreds or thousands of times every single day for the better part of 40 years. I used to wake up every morning. I'd stand on my bed. I'd draw my curtains. I'd cross my fingers, and I would hope I would see mushroom clouds. I tried to kill myself at least 6 times, at least 6 times. But the thing is, if I really wanted to die, one should have been enough. When I realized I couldn't find a way to die, I thought, well, I better find a way to live instead. So I did what I could to alleviate these horrible depressive feelings. First things I did, of course, were self-help. I drank like a fish. I did drugs, cocaine, acid, pot, all these things to try to dull the pain. I was a sex addict as well. It wouldn't be uncommon for me to have 3 or 4 dates with different women on the same day. That was pretty common, actually. I needed to distract myself as much as possible so I wouldn't think of the hell on earth I was living. I feel like I'm almost 1,000 years old. I'm sure everybody out there can relate. They felt bad, even if it was just for a few minutes. And those few minutes seem to take an eternity. That's why I feel like I'm almost 1,000 years old, because I lived 40 years in a row like that without a break. I eventually realized that the drugs, the alcohol, the sex were actually making my life worse. So I thought, well, there's all this, societal help out there. There's doctors, there's clinicians, there's psychiatrists, there's psychologists, there's social workers, there's coaches, there's this, there's that. So I tried all of them, and I got no relief from any of them either. I started losing hope, and then I realized, well, maybe if I understood my problem, I might have a better chance of solving it, rather than just throwing stuff against the wall and seeing what might stick. So I went to something that I call the paper internet. For those of you who are too young to know what I mean by that, it's a library. They didn't have the internet back in those days. So I went and I studied things like neurobiology, neural physics, quantum physics. Yes, quantum physics was a thing 30, 40 years ago. No question about it. Psychology, perception, everything under the sun, any discipline I could find that might give me some inkling, some understanding as to what and why I was feeling what I was feeling, why I felt like I must have been Hitler in a previous life, brought back now to suffer for my crimes. If someone was standing in front of me a block ahead with friends and they were laughing, facing in the other direction, I would think they're laughing at me. I had thousands of voices in my head. Thousands, literally thousands and thousands and thousands of voices in my head all the time. I was a troublemaker. I was injured hundreds of times, maybe thousands of times. I was the victim of self-harm. I broke almost every bone in my body. I've dislocated almost every bone in my body. I've had multiple concussions, broken ribs. These teeth, they're not real. They're all caps. They're all fake because I've smashed them out a bunch of times too. Now, not on purpose. It's not like I took a hammer, but it was on purpose here. I felt I needed to suffer, which is interesting because on one hand, I felt I needed to suffer. On the other hand, I was crying all the time. Why was I suffering? You know, what did I do to deserve this? All my friends, you know, they had cars, they had, you know, when they were in their 20s and 30s, they had healthy relationships and they ended up getting married and having kids and all these other things. I got none of that. None of it at all. Couldn't wait to die. But again, I couldn't kill myself. And, you know, the Russians and the US didn't cooperate by dropping bombs on me. So I had no choice but to live. I learned things about the brain. I learned things about the mind. And I have an understanding. That's all I have. I believe that's all any of us have, but that's my current understanding, actually. I don't believe in fact and I don't believe in truth. As a scientist and as a person, believing in fact and believing in truth actually hurt me because it stops me from thinking. Why should I think about something if it's the truth? Why should I think about something if it's a fact? It just doesn't serve me to believe in truth or fact. Everything changes in my view. That's my current understanding, at least. And because of that, facts would need to change, and so would truth, by definition. But the problem is, by definition, facts and truth don't exist. Because if they change, they can't be a fact and they can't be the truth. Look, years ago, it used to be believed as truth and fact that women who suffered from hysteria had evil spirits in their heads. And there's a fossil record, literally a record, showing skulls of women with holes in their heads because this is what men decided to do to save their women. They would drill holes in their heads, thus allowing the evil spirits to escape. And that would solve the hysteria problem. This is what medical science decided was the truth. Looking back through history, as I did, I noticed every single thing that was considered truth at one time or another has been disproven to this point in time. To me, it only makes perfect sense that if that's the case, what we believe to be true now is likely also to be disproven at some point in the future. So I have all this evidence that currently tells me that everything I think I know is really just an understanding that's current and it's pliable and it's changeable. So I'm not here to tell you things, to teach you wisdom, to explain the world and the universe to you, because you have your own way of doing that. All I want to try to do with this is to try to get you to think. That's all. Not to think about or believe in what I say or what I do. I have that deep authoritative news voice. So don't believe in it just because it's deep and authoritative. If something intrigues you, if something resonates with you, I encourage you to tailor it to fit yourself before you decide whether you want to accept it or whether you want to act on it. I think the biggest problem with self-help, quite frankly, is that all these quote unquote experts tell you everything except the one thing that matters the most. And I'll give you a quick story to explain that one thing that matters the most, in my opinion, currently. Let's say that I met Tony Robbins. And let's say that we're going to equate, for the purposes of this story, his suit with his course. That's going to make me rich and wealthy and happy and healthy. So I go up to Tony and I say, hey, Tony, I'd like to buy your suit, which of course is his course. And he says, sure, Maury, no problem. So he goes into the back and he changes clothes and he puts on a hanger his jacket, his shirt, his tie, his belt, his pants, everything's there, all nice and ready for me. The problem is, I think Tony Robbins is about 6'7" or around there. I'm only 6'1". So if I put on his suit, I'm going to look like a 6-year-old trying on daddy's clothes. It's going to be all over the place. The arms will be too long. The legs will be, I'll probably trip and break my neck. However, if I take his suit and I go to a tailor and I say, can you measure me and refit the suit so it's my size, please? And I go back in a week, that suit will fit me. This is the problem I see with self-help and all the supposed experts out there. We can only talk, and I'm saying we in terms of my understanding. I hate the word we and I hate the word you. And I'll explain why in a second. But in my current understanding, anyone, Oprah, Wayne Dyer, Deepak Chopra, Tony Robbins, whoever, can only speak for themselves. They can only relate their understanding. But their understanding is based on their life. It's based on their good fortune. It's based on the people they've met. It's based on the teachers they've had. It's based on what they had for lunch. Based on their parents and their upbringing. So many variables that following their quote unquote blueprint or formula, I believe, is the biggest reason why 99% of these people who do follow don't succeed. I have a friend in the UK who is kind of like a miniature version of Tony Robbins. And I don't mean in size, I mean in scope. And he met Tony. And one of the things Tony told him was, you know what's interesting, Eric? When I do my tours and I travel all over the world and people are spending thousands and thousands of dollars to hear me and watch me on stage, most of the people I see are the same people every year. So the question is asked, why is it the same people? If they're following and if they're doing everything the right way, why aren't they already rich? Why aren't they already succeeding? Why aren't they already what they should be? Well, to me, the answer seems pretty obvious. You're following a formula that someone designed for themselves or that someone experienced for themselves and got good results. You didn't tailor it for you. Okay, here's why I don't like you and we. Exactly for the reason I just stated. I cannot speak for anybody but me. I believe nobody else has the right to either. Because again, too many differences in history, too many differences in upbringing, too many differences in if there's a religious bent, if there isn't a religious bent, if there's a political bent or non-political, how our parents were, how our teachers were, how our friends were. All these things are relevant to our unique experience. Interestingly enough, I have enough notes here that it looks like I could talk for about 6 hours, so I'm going to have to dig through all of this. Went to the no such thing as truth or fact. Here, let me give you an exercise that you can do because I'm going to bounce all over the place. I'm going to be like a Super Ball here. Here's an exercise that I designed that many of my clients use on a regular basis, and it helps them to reprogram their minds away from being depressed, away from being sad, and away from looking for all the crap in the world. Because I don't believe in the law of attraction. I think that's a con. You see, for me, I was brought up to respect the law. I was brought up not to steal, not to rape, not to pillage, not to beat, not to murder. These are things I don't think about. I was taught that they're wrong. I accept that they're wrong. They're the law. The law of attraction is named such, in my view, to stop me from thinking. It's there to make me accept it as some kind of truth. But again, for multiple reasons that I've already discussed and others, People make laws. Nature doesn't make laws. The law of gravity. If I were to suddenly be able to levitate, do you really think nature is going to punish me or kill me or put me in jail because I'm breaking the law? The trick behind the law of attraction is that if I do not succeed using the law of attraction, that's because of a fault with me. So I'm not going to return my book. I'm not going to return the project. I'm not going to return the gift or whatever that I paid for from all these people from The Secret, because it's my fault, not theirs. I didn't have enough faith in myself. I didn't do this. I didn't do that. No, 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 no. It didn't work for me because it's not real for me. That's all, period. Move on to something else. The universe is an interesting place to me. I believe we all exist in our own universe. That means that if you tell me your view of life, your view of experience, your view of what should be or what is, and I hear that and it's completely wrong for me, that doesn't matter, because you are speaking from your perspective. You've made your conclusions based on your experience, based on the people you know, based on how you took in the information, how you took in the data, how you took in the evidence, and how you interpreted it. Quantum physics at its most basic level says nothing exists until it's observed. If I accept that, which I do, then I have to accept your observations of life. I don't have to adopt them as mine, but I do adopt them as yours. And I say, good for you. In other words, you're always right and I'm never wrong, because I have my own way of seeing the world. You have your own way of seeing the world. Therefore, to me, we are all existing in our own skin, in our own galaxies, in our own universe. I made the mistake in the past of seeing you there. And because I see you, and I can speak with you, I assume that you're in my universe. But you're not. Now, again, I'm not trying to convince you. I'm speaking for myself here. For me, you're not in my universe. You're in your universe. Even words don't mean the same thing to me or you. How could I have been so petulant? How could I have been so overconfident to think that my interpretation of the universe is your universe too? That's just terrible. So I see I'm running out of time here. So instead of going on and on and on,
You're my
I'm just going to give you this
sweetest
exercise to help.
addiction. You're my
It's
strongest
helped thousands of my clients, and I hope it resonates and helps you too. Here's the thing. I wake up every single morning. Let's start at the beginning of the day. And I write down on a piece of paper or on a tablet with a stylus 10 things from the night before that I also wrote down. So let's start the day. I start the day, I'm looking for 10 things all day long that I can be grateful for. Doesn't matter what they are. They don't have to be earth-shattering, just things to be grateful for. Could be a flower, a baby, a squirrel. Doesn't matter. Anything at all, as long as I observed it and it made me smile. That's all that's required. Doesn't have to be earth-shattering. I can't write it down though, because I know that when I go to bed at night, the last thing I'm going to do before I lay down is I'm going to write out 10 things 3 times each. That's 10 things, 3 times each on a piece of paper. I saw a beautiful flower. I heard a baby cooing in a crib. I saw a leaf falling from a tree, and it was just majestic how it went back and forth. And I do this 10 different things 3 times each. The reason why I don't write it down is by 9 a.m. I may find 10 things. If I know I have to remember, I'm always on the lookout for 10 things. When I go to bed at night, I write it down like that. When I wake up at night, I write it down like that. Here's why this works. It works very simple. When you write something down, and I can say this because physiologically, this is what happens in the brain, you actually create a neural pathway. I believe when you write something down that's positive, you're creating a positive neural pathway. So It's giving your mind more routes to take that are positive. You're literally rewiring yourself to be happier, to look for the good instead of the bad. This is where the law of attraction fails me. It's not a law of attraction. It's simply someone looking for good. You look for good, you're going to see good. You look for bad, that's what we find as well. So, writing down creates neural pathways that help to rewire the brain. Knowing that we're not going to be able to write them down until we go to bed at night means we're always on the lookout for good stuff. I see my time is up, so I'll just finish up quickly. What happens is in the morning, when I write it down, I'm starting my day, not just rewiring, but with all these positive thoughts. When I go to sleep, I'm not just rewiring, I'm having all these positive thoughts. Using this technique for a minimum of 2 weeks, I would be very surprised if everyone on the planet didn't experience positive changes. Anyway, that's it for me. Thank you very much for your time and your attention. And I'm here if you need me, so feel free to reach out. Thank you.
Thank you, Maury. And yes, and entrainment. And I had it written as entrainment, but my brain was saying entertainment.
A lot of people do that. It's not uncommon. Don't
Yeah.
feel bad, but it does make me giggle inside whenever I hear it, especially because I have to let someone introduce me and I can't correct them. And it's like, oh no, people are going to think I'm going to do a tap dance for them or something.
Oh, that was amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, thank you to our 4 speakers before I open up the floor. Yes, Lisa says that was very fascinating. Thank you so much for sharing your story, Maury. So thank you to our speakers, Maury, Jan, Yo, and unfortunately Elizabeth had to go, so she won't be available for the Q&A. So without further ado, let me take the spotlights off. Okay, so the floor is now open. Please don't be shy. Hey, of course you won't be shy, Arthi. Awesome. Over to you, Arthi. Ask your question.
Thank you. I've actually got a question for each of our speakers, but I'd love to start with, okay, Maury was intriguing, so I need time for him on that one. But for Yo, one of the things that, you spoke about alcoholism, and if we think about it, you have a cause and you have a symptom. And if alcoholism is a symptom, what was your cause? Because you speak about something that actually what was your trigger that actually caused you to begin on that path? I mean, that would be brilliant if you feel comfortable to share that.
I feel comfortable sharing anything. Let me start with that. But what would be I would say that it was my living an inauthentic life was the cause. Me not truly understanding how much ownership or responsibility I had in my life would be the cause. If I get deep enough and rooted enough, that's what it was. Because that's what I flipped the script on, was just that. There was no pinpoint. Sometimes people would ask me, like, when did you become an alcoholic? Like, there was a day in time. I can remember, like, it was all a progression. It just grew up. So when I dissected back and realized it goes back to beyond even me being conceived, I don't remember. But I just knew that it wasn't authentic the way I was living life. I hope that answers your question, Dr. Arden.
I know it's brilliant because it's a journey. So thank you for that. Should I let somebody else ask a question first before I ask the other ones?
No, go for it.
You sure? Okay, for Jan, I've got a very specific one for you. What 2 actions can a person use to create an emotional connection for intentional relationships, for intentional living for couples?
Okay, yeah, that's a good one. But you only have good questions anyway, I know that. Yeah, well, A few things come to mind here right now. I think one of them for me clearly is, and it's something that requires room for improvement, especially on my part, and it's communicate with each other. Because I think without that, people are beginning to live separate lives, and it's not just talking about work, but really communicating. And I says, and I certainly fall short on that one. Another one that is important: spend time together. You know, and you know, doesn't matter how busy the schedules are. I think we need, dare I say, we need to be intentional about spending time together, and that should be quality time. I mean, it's the same that parents say that they spend time with their kids and they all sit there maybe in front of a screen, and half of them on their own mobile phones in the meantime, and then say they've had quality time, they've had time together. Well, it's the same as with sleep. You need quality sleep. It's not always about the hours, and the same with that kind of thing. It's the quality. It's better to have less time but have great quality than have a lot of time and there is no quality involved. So it's something else that I also need to do more. That's why those came out to me first, but there's a few more. And I think also, and I mean, Arthi is so does this so much with me as well, and maybe to a lesser degree I do it with her, but be supportive of each other. You know, I mean, I am her cheerleader. She's definitely my cheerleader, but the encouragement and empowering each other and guiding and supporting each other. There is a lot more to being supportive than just say, yeah, you go for it, and I'll be there when you talk, like Arthur does to me and I does to her as well, and we support each other there, but throughout so many different things. And something else that pops up just now is also respect each other, especially and including our differences. And then you know, I mean, I could talk about all of these separately, but the last one I really want to, and there's probably more and more as I go on, but I'll stop there and make time for date nights. I mean, we have a date night, Friday night's date night, and even though I'm in Scotland at the moment and Arthur in South Africa, sometimes we have a drink. We've even watched movies together. We synchronize our Netflix and we watch movies together, and we have a drink together, and just we don't always. I mean, if we can't be together, we must try to be together, if that makes sense, you know. And again, as Arthur will vouch for as well, that I certainly need room for improvement, because sometimes it's spending time together, but you know, not the best thoughts go into it, to say the least. So you know, this question opens up a few areas for me to become more intentional. And that's why they stood out for me. I could have said other things that might look nice and sound nice, but you know, let's be open about it. I need to be more intentional about some of these things. One or two of them I do quite well, but there's certainly, and I'm going to make notes on them as well. So when I return next week, especially that I become more intentional, and yeah, I hope that I see Arthur already celebrates this, and I'm glad. So you know, no pressure, but it's on. Thank you.
I didn't answer the question to put you on the spot, I promise.
No. But I mean, I put myself on the spot because it's true.
No, thank you so much for that, though, Jan. Maury, and you know, one of the things that stood out for me is that your brain is beyond epic, right? I love intelligent conversation. And when you look at, you know, there were so many things that you spoke about, and you spoke about fact and truth are relative, right? They don't exist. And so for me, one of the things that stood out during your talk is that suicide and depression is a reality for a lot of people. And so when you're dealing with clients, how do you get them to make that shift in thinking so that they can actually gain the tools that you use and the techniques that you use without rejecting the approach?
Okay, it's interesting because I'm not a coach. I'm a neuroscientist. I create systems that are used independent of me. That being said, you'd be surprised how many people want me to coach them anyway. And I'm going to have to come up with a pricing structure because it's getting a little bit much giving away hours and hours of my life for nothing. Well, not for nothing. I mean, I'm helping, giving value, but I'm not getting anything back, for my time. That being said, again, everything is neurochemical based. So if I can get someone to feel a little bit different, that's all it takes to create a massive shift. One thing that's interesting is if you're in a lit room, try to find a spot of darkness. Not easy. Absolutely not easy. Now, go into a super dark room and try to find a spot, just a little pinprick of light. Stands out like a sore thumb, doesn't it? That's the trick. With my technology, with the brainwave entrainment, it alters the neural activity just enough to alter the chemistry. And as I alluded to, it is the chemistry that is the birth of everything you feel and experience. It's the actual experience of your thoughts is the chemical result. By altering that chemical balance even a little bit, it lets people see, even if they're depressed, even if they're down, even if they're not there, it lets them see there's a different way to feel. There's a different way to be. I was just speaking with a young lady the other day, and interestingly enough, she was a referral from a coach who said, this one's impossible. Maybe your work will help her. I talked to her, and she ended up buying one of my products, but I'm not sure she needed it actually. Just, one of the things I do when I speak with people, and all of you are welcome to do this if you think it'll be valuable, is you can hear in someone's voice when they're uplifted and when they're different. The voice is a real, the eyes are the window to the soul, but the voice is the window to how they really feel. And every time I speak with people, because I'm always pumping them up, I just want all of you to be happy and healthy. I think we're all supposed to be happy because happy feels good for a reason. It's nature's way of telling us that's how we're supposed to feel. Sad isn't a bad thing. Be grateful for it. Be grateful for pain too, because without these things, we don't know when we're doing something wrong. Now, I hate the we part. I apologize for using it. It's still a reflex for me sometimes. I don't know you. I don't know your circumstances. And it's terrible for me to try to speak for you and to tell you what is right for you and what is not right for you. So I apologize. If I was talking to a friend, I'd be slapping my face nonstop. That's why I have this nice color in my face, because I'm always hitting myself, because I'm always doing things against what I should be doing. But the bottom line is, I think that all I need to do is point out to someone, hey, how do you feel now compared to how you felt 20 minutes ago when we first started this conversation? Invariably, people will say, I feel a little bit better, or I feel a lot better. And then they'll say, thank you. And I'll go, don't thank me, thank yourself. Because I could have had the secret to the universe for you. Literally, for all of you, I have the secret to the universe. But if you don't listen and you don't take action, it's good for nothing. Your decision to hear, your decision to act makes it all you. And then I tell people, so remember the conversation we just had, because you will remember when you start feeling that little twinge of going into a depressive episode or whatever's going on, you can stop it when it's small if you catch it soon enough. And if you remember this conversation, it had nothing to do with Maury. It had everything to do with you. Essentially, in my view, they made a choice to feel better. That's why they feel better. Knowing you have the power, because look, you can't influence me. I can't influence you. To learn, when I learned that it was all my doing that made me feel the way I was feeling, that was the most freeing thing in my life. Absolutely the most freeing thing, because I'm the only person I have any control over. And to know that it was me responsible, oh boy, 40 years of depression washes away. And I'm grateful, by the way, so no one feels sorry for me that I had all these injuries and all this pain and all this anguish. Most of it was because I was too stupid to know it was a lesson. A lesson, lean forward and listen, as opposed to something evil, which is what I was doing, right? Closing my eyes, raising my arms to protect myself. Anyway, I'll get off my high horse. I apologize. I can yak. You guys got to learn. You got to throw tomatoes at me or something. Okay, thank you. I hope that answered your question, by the way, because if it didn't, I don't know what else to say.
Karen, I'm sure you've got some gems there.
Yeah, I mean, can I just start with Murray? Because Murray, I did my MA in criminology and I concentrated on complexity theory, which is from quantum physics. And what I was trying to do, because I've worked in the criminal justice system for my life, and basically, what I was trying to do in my studies was try to understand part of what you're talking about here, about how our behavior and is affected by our thinking, but our thinking is affected not just by the emotions, but the release of oxytocin, dopamine, sorry, what am I saying? Sorry.
It doesn't matter. By chemicals.
Yeah, basically. And that when the adrenaline kicks in and the cortisol kicks in, how that actually affects us and the way that we respond. So I was doing quite a lot of this work. So I'm sat here lapping up everything that you're saying here. But I also studied Nietzsche. So because I did, and I'm listening to what you're saying, and when I did the quantum physics, we did actually look at Nietzsche and quantum physics, because there is a similarity and a blend. And I suppose my question for you is, when somebody is sort of like very disruptive, I don't know if you dealt with somebody who's really disruptive, somebody who basically is living in their anger, very disruptive, haven't had a lot of opportunities in life, really feel that there's nothing for them, that they'll never have anything in the future. So what's the point? And it's almost like they just want to kick out at absolutely everybody. What is it that you would say to that person, or would you do with that person to help them to move from where they're so stuck?
Okay, I don't believe in stuck.
Okay.
They have a way of thinking. That's all. It's simply a matter of showing them a different way of thought. That's all. It's quite simple. In my experience, when I look at something as difficult, I complicate it. When I look at something as basic and simple, it's simple. The answer comes. When people ask me, you see, this is the kind of question that I would need to actually have that person talking to me. I cannot tell you how many times people are asking me things, are telling me these horrible things going on in their lives. And I'm thinking to myself, I have no idea what I'm going to say when they're finished talking. Not a clue. But I also tell myself, I will know exactly the right thing to say when it is time to say it. And I always do, because I'm talking from a point of love and compassion. And you know, when I was depressed and wanting those nuclear weapons to go off, I wanted all of you dead, even though I don't even know you, even though I didn't even know you. I wanted all of you dead. It wasn't enough for me to be dead. Now, that didn't mean I picked up a rifle and went and started wanting to shoot up people, but I wanted the world over. But now I want everyone to be happy and loving and beautiful. So what was the difference? It was a difference in perspective. That's all it is. Get someone to look over here. That's all it takes. It's simple. Simple, simple, simple. Everything, you know, a lot of my technologies are supposed to be impossible. But I didn't go to school and get told that it's impossible. So I think if I have a thought, it's because it's possible. I would tell these people simply, look, you feel the way you feel for a reason, because the universe loves you, God loves you, whoever, you love you, whatever you believe in loves you. And that's why it's making you feel this way, because you weren't listening, unfortunately, to the kind, beautiful, gentle, motherly words saying, do this, stop doing that. Instead, you made the universe get loud and boisterous to try to get your attention. You feel bad, not because you're bad, but because you're not listening. Start listening. When you start feeling bad, listen, learn, find out what is being said that you're not hearing, and your world will change. That's what happened to me. I started using this technology, and suddenly I started asking questions instead of just assuming I knew what was right. And it changed everything. And feel out the person you're talking to. You'll find an opening. They always leave an opening. Otherwise, they wouldn't be talking to you. They wouldn't be around you. They wouldn't be in your orbit. Trust in the universe. They're there for you. They're around you because you need to be around them. And trust in that. And you'll say the right thing, and you'll get through to them, and you'll see that little glimmer in the eye of the depressed person who just wants to die. And you'll see the change because you're supposed to be there at that moment. Trust in it and just act on it. Use your genius. My genius is useless. Your genius is what matters.
Interesting. Thank you.
Sure.
You know, I find this kind of stuff so interesting. That's why I read up on it. So I got my Nietzsche book earlier on, and I was sort of like looking in there, and I'm sure that Nietzsche said that, and he did. So yeah, all right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Can I just ask Yo a question? Yeah, just very quickly. Yo, I had a different perspective of alcoholism in my life because I was the child of my mum who struggled with alcoholism. Basically, when you are in that place where you're not feeling, you know, positive, and you just feel like you just want to dumb it down, is there ever, or was there ever, a feeling that you questioned it, that you ever had that voice in your head that said, actually, I don't want to do this? Or is it something that you just feel you cannot fight?
It was both, and it was always an internal fight inside of me. Like I said, the devil angel, there was the strong version of me that had already had so much success and pushing through and being determined and resilient, and I relied on that for so long. And it was just, I hate to lack of a better word, weaker version of me who didn't have anything to fight with other than her excuses and her past and her stuff. And so sometimes there was something that was in me saying I should stop, but it was always a louder voice. One voice was always louder than the other. And it was the one I fed the most. And I was feeding my victim voice louder than I was feeding my stronger voice, because my stronger voice became unreliable. When I had the first failure, my stronger voice got a little quiet and she got a little louder. And the louder that this voice got, I listened to this for more. But they were always both and going on. It was which one did I lean into the most.
So would you say that you were in perpetual conflict?
Yes, constantly.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And Jan, I did have a question very quickly for you. Right. When you were talking about living your best life and you were talking about personal development, you never mentioned the word gratitude. But I wondered, did gratitude come into that as something that you thought was really important when you're being intentional? Is it about being grateful and looking for the things in your life that you have gratitude for?
That's a good question, and I mean, Maury also indicated it very clearly in the exercise. But I think for me it's important anyway. And again, as Maury said, I can only talk about me, but I believe that the power of gratitude is so huge to each and every one who actively engages in it. And as one size doesn't fit all. I mean, I've always said that, and that really that says that Maury says as well. You know, you can't talk for everyone. You can make suggestions for them to pick from what suits them. I say with self-care as well, because I say all these kind of things happen by choice, not by chance. But for those choices, for us to make those kind of choices and to take on board gratitude. I've got a gratitude journal. It works for me. I think it's a powerful thing. It took me long enough for me to start that. So does it work for me? Yes. Is it part of my intentional living? Definitely. Because I think, the whole idea for me about an intention, about a gratitude journal, is that the ability to eventually becomes, I wouldn't say automatic, but it becomes more of something that I want to. I started to get drawn to put things in there, and even sometimes look back. I says, one day you might not feel so good. Open your gratitude journal, and that the entry that they can be, I'm grateful for having a gratitude journal, if that makes sense. But I think there is so much. See, with all the negativity around us, and there is way too much of it, more than we should have to cope with, I think. And I think so. If you become intentional in the way you live, and for me that was, I don't buy newspapers. Don't I know what's going on around the world? Yes. And I said, if there's something that's important enough for me to know, somebody will tell me. But I don't need to read every single. I know there is murders happening on the streets of Johannesburg and in other big cities. I know all these little things are happening, but all these kind of things going into our minds constantly is doing us no good whatsoever. So we need to have something to balance that. First of all, get rid of it. And switch off the news, because, well, as I said, I'll speak for me again. But the gratitude journal, I think, is important. There is so many things that are important for to live an intentional life. But for me, it's important. So again, I would recommend that people try it, and I sincerely hope it works for them. But I can't say you need to do that, you must do that. I mean, I could say that, but it wouldn't make much sense. I want to give people a choice. I want to make people aware of it. And I talk about the power of gratitude as well. But I want people to become aware of the things that are possible. And it is not, look at what I do. No, it is what I do. It is that makes me happy. It is that makes me content on a daily basis, because I have so much to be grateful for. Even though sometimes there is days that not the best days in your life. But I mean, again, as Joe said as well, when you fall down, make sure you fall on your back, because if you can look up, you can get up. Les Brown, and these kind of things. For some people, those things might be silly quotes, but they all have importance, because yes, we do fall down, we have issues, and that might not be a thing that you're grateful for. But a grateful thing out of that might be that you did get up. That you stood up, you got the courage of your conviction, you got the will to stand up again. That could be in your gratitude journal, because if you stay down and all these kind of things, horrible things happen to people because they stay down, they have no hope. And where there's no hope in the future, there's no power in the present. But that power can come out of a gratitude journal. So I mean, I can talk. I'm quite passionate about that as well. So I'm grateful for the question. But I think for me it is important, and I think for many people it could be important. But is it going to be important for everybody? Well, I would say try Murray's exercise. 10 things. I mean, I normally write things already in the morning when I wake up. I write them in there. That's my. I'm going to try Murray's site now as well. Maybe that is even better for me. But I do that. Would I say religiously every day? Not because I have to, but because I want to. I needed to make myself do it at the beginning, of course, because do you get motivated and get started, or you get started and get motivated? Well, I think that you need sometimes, as I said, you don't have to be great to get started, but you need to get started to be great. So for me, I think, okay, I at first I started it. It took me a while, I'll be quite honest, and I knew it. I had a feeling it was good for me, but until it felt good inside of me, then I started this exercise, and now for me it's something that I'm grateful for every day, just to do it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, that's me done.
Any more questions?
Carol, there's some amazing questions in the chat.
Yes, I think they've been answered. Yeah, Maury's been answering Nirmala's questions.
Thank you, Maury. I found all the speakers amazing, Carol. I'm so glad I joined today. It was an incredible evening. What a lineup. I just think, you know what? We've got to share this with everybody because I know sometimes people just miss out, and I probably have missed others, but today's was amazing. I'm really, really grateful to each of them because at the moment, my daughter has been going through a deep, dark depression, and obviously, I found the brainwave entrainment really fascinating. So, yeah, I'd like more information. I probably, if Maury has a website, oh, there he is. He's put his link down. Thank you, Maury. And thank you to everybody. I mean, the intentional living was great for me because, as you know, I am one of the happiness coaches and I do lots of work with people trying to get them to live an intentionally happier life. So thank you for that as well. Thank you to everybody.
Awesome.
Carol, you're a wonderful host and you've introduced everybody so beautifully too. Thank you.
Thank you, Nomla. The pleasure is all mine. I get to meet some amazing people, and I don't take that for granted. It's all about learning from, no one of us knows more than all of us. I will always remember that. Any more questions before we close? Okay, well, I just want to say a huge thank you for what you have brought to the table this evening, this afternoon. I am indebted to you, and I know, Maury, you don't like the word you, but accept it.
No, that usage is fine. I have no problem with that. I don't like when I use the word you to impose my will on people. Gratitude goes away.
Awesome. So thank you, Jan. And thank you, Yo. Thank you, Maury. And the recording, even though it wasn't live streamed, it has been recorded, and it will be uploaded to Kashulia UK's YouTube channel, and I will let you know when it has been. Thank you for Dr. Arthie Moore Roberts. Arthie, it was lovely seeing you, and you have to come again. 2022 was the last time you spoke on this platform. Long overdue. So yes, Ruth, thank you for joining us. Lisa, who is a speaker on the 21st of March on our Women Empowerment event, the very last Women Empowerment event, because there's a lot to do. So we'll only be going to have the one event a month, which will be the Men Are From Mars, but it's going to be renamed. So Lisa, I look forward to hearing your share. Karen, previous speaker on the event, a wonderful speaker. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Christy, thank you. I know you were late because of other commitments, but thank you for joining us anyway. You will have to look at the recording when it's out. And Shafina, again, thank you for your support. You're always supporting the platform. Thank you. And Najma, thank you for joining us. And Hina, thank you. And with that, I want to say enjoy the rest of your day, your evening. Yes, I can never do that properly. There we go.
Thank you.
So I'll just stop the recording.
You're my sweetest addiction. You're my strongest